Hello there, my name is Luciano Oliveira. I am a Brazilian attorney, and today we're going to be talking about the Brazil Retirement Visa, a full overview. The Brazil Retirement Visa was created back in 2019 under President Bolsonaro's administration. Although it has been around for a few years, it is still considered as a new visa. Many applicants are learning about the Brazil Retirement Visa only now. The Brazil Retirement Visa, in addition to being a retirement visa, is also a pension-based visa, meaning that even if you're not retired, if you do have a pension fund that's gonna last for the remainder of your life, you are welcome to apply for this visa. Nowadays, there are two different tracks for you to apply for the Brazil Retirement Visa, and one track is gonna be through a Brazil consulate or embassy abroad. And the second track is for you to apply when in Brazil. Important to note that even if you are entering Brazil as a visitor, you are free to apply for the Brazil Retirement Visa. Meaning you could potentially enter Brazil as a visitor, and once you learn about the retirement visa, you can apply while you're still in Brazil, get the approval while you're still in Brazil, and while you're still in Brazil, get the resident card without leaving the country, and then staying for longer term, like 1 year, 2 years, or even longer. In terms of timeline, in our experience, it may take between 1 to 2 months for the applicant to collect the documents that they need for the application. It is possible for the applicant to gather those documents while you're abroad or even from Brazil. Many of our clients are able to gather all the documents from abroad while you're in Brazil with our assistance. In terms of timeline, ideally, you would allocate 1 or 2 months to retrieve and collect and organize the documents. The application itself, when done in Brazil, is going to take usually around a couple of months. And once you have an approval, it may take an additional couple of months for you to get the RNM card, which is the registration card for a foreign citizen living in Brazil under a retirement visa. Once you have an application filed in Brazil, in theory, you are legally allowed to stay in country for the duration of the processing of your visa application. Many of our clients are gonna apply for the retirement visa once they are halfway their 90 days allowed to stay in Brazil as a tourist. There is also the possibility of applying for the Brazil Retirement Visa abroad at a Brazilian consulate or a Brazilian embassy. The documents required are gonna vary slightly depending on where you are gonna apply. For instance, if you are applying abroad, you must have health insurance. The health insurance requirement is concerning in our opinion, as you're gonna have an existing coverage under your current health insurance or not. If you have it, good news. The consulate or embassy route may be a good track for you. However, if you don't have it, if your current health insurance does not cover Brazil, guess what? You are out of luck. I say out of luck because in our experience, consulates and embassies of Brazil abroad, they are not going to accept a travel insurance. Again, this distinction is pretty important for you to understand. Health insurance is not the same as travel insurance. Some of our clients will want to discuss with us, well, my travel insurance happens to cover health issues abroad. We understand that, however, in our experience, that's not what a Brazilian consulate or Brazilian embassy wants to see. They want to see something called health insurance, and again, not travel insurance. If your current health insurance does not cover Brazil or services abroad, you may be better off applying while you're in Brazil. What we see being offered to foreign citizens applying abroad through a consulate or embassy, it's the so-called health insurance for gringos. The nickname should be enough to scare you away. Health insurance are usually not accepted in Brazil. They exist more for the single purpose of allowing you to apply for a Brazil visa through a consulate or embassy. So, in addition to not being accepted in Brazil, in other words, you will need to pay out of pocket and then chase these companies to be reimbursed, you also would need to pay big bucks for it. We have seen quotes in the past for $3,000, $4,000, or even $5,000 a year. And again, the problem is that you're not gonna be able to use this so-called health insurance in Brazil later on. If you're serious about taking care of your health, you would be much better off hiring a regular Brazil health insurance once you are approved for the Brazil retirement visa. And the good news is that you do not need a health insurance when applying for the retirement visa in Brazil. Making sure this distinction is crystal clear. If you apply abroad through a consulate or embassy, you're gonna be asked for health insurance valid with coverage in Brazil. If you are applying for the Brazil retirement visa while physically in Brazil, Brazil is not gonna ask you for an existing health insurance. And therefore, you can secure the retirement visa first and then buy the same health insurance that us Brazilians have. Brazilian health insurance, particularly those for private services, are gonna be substantially cheaper than what you would be paying in the US. And as a plus, private health services in Brazil are usually of a better quality, in our perspective as Brazilians, than the services provided in the US. Documents that are going to be the same for both an application to a consulate or an application in Brazil are going to be birth certificate, proof of address, criminal records, and certain declarations that the Brazilian government is going to ask you to provide. Something important for you to remember: although a Brazilian consulate may accept a simple birth certificate during the application process, when you are registering in Brazil later on, you're gonna need to have an apostille on your birth certificate. So making sure you are clear on this. The consulate or embassy, they're gonna make it easy for you to present a birth certificate. But later on, it's mandatory that you attend a registration in Brazil at the Brazilian Federal Police. And at the moment in time, they are not gonna accept any birth certificate. They are gonna demand an apostilled version of your birth certificate. Additionally, you're gonna need to show proof of retirement funds, of retirement income. The retirement income must be of at least $2,000 a month. Brazil is gonna accept a substantially broad range of retirement funds or accounts such as IRA, Social Security, annuities, pension funds, and so on. Retirement funds are not enough to meet the $2,000 requirement. It is possible, although not guaranteed, that the immigration is going to accept a supplement coming from traditional sources such as savings account. Another interesting point of the Brazil retirement visa is that, in theory, you do not need to prove that you are retired. Brazil is usually satisfied with retirement income being available. This means that even if you are working on the side, if you have some type of job still, as long as you have enough retirement income, you should be good to apply for this visa. So again, in our experience, there is no such a thing as proving that you are indeed retired. As long as you have retirement income, you are good to apply for the visa. The reason for that, in our understanding, is that Brazil is more concerned about people coming to Brazil with enough funds, with enough income to live in Brazil for the long run. If you think carefully, it doesn't make much sense for Brazil to make sure that people are really, really old. That's not the point. The point is to have people with money to sustain themselves during their stay in Brazil. From this perspective, it's easy to understand why we are able to approve individuals in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. We had not long ago an applicant in his 30s from the military service in the US. And because he was able to present retirement income in excess of $2,000, we were able to have this applicant approved with no questions asked. True, this person was actually a disabled veteran, so if the Brazilian immigration would ask us why this person was applying in his studies, we would have enough evidence to explain why he was retired in his studies. Still, because nobody asked us about his age, it does support the understanding that Brazil is not super concerned about the person being retired or not for good. And instead, Brazil is more concerned about a source of income qualifying as a retirement, and therefore a very firm and secure income that this individual is going to have for their availability for the long term. In terms of duration for this visa, it's going to be issued for up to 2 years. It is also renewable, as in our understanding, on a continuous basis. So in theory, you could stay forever in Brazil by renewing your Brazil retirement visa. Some applicants are going to have dependents and they're going to ask, what about my dependent? In our understanding, this visa would allow you to request a visa known as the family reunion visa, which would be good, for instance, for a spouse or minor children who could piggyback on your Brazil retirement visa under the family reunion visa and stay living with you in Brazil as long as needed. Make sure to watch our other videos about the Brazil retirement visa, addressing specific requirements and nuances of this visa popular with foreign citizens. If you have specific questions about your situation, consider scheduling a consultation with our team. Also provide live streams on Wednesdays and Sundays in which topics of your interest may be discussed live with other many foreign citizens just like you. If you like the content, consider liking our YouTube videos so other people may find this content. Subscribe to be alerted about other of our videos, and I hope to see you soon.